The sirens hit first, cutting through the still night like a blade. Red and blue lights bouncing off the lake water, while a grown man stood in my yard with his hands cuffed behind his back. A hammer lying useless at his feet. A bright yellow string stretched across my lawn like some pathetic attempt at a border wall. That was the night everything finally cracked open. The night the HOA president, who thought she could bend reality to her will, realized she had picked a fight with the wrong man. But to understand how we got there, you have to start at the beginning, back when all I wanted was a quiet 4th of July cookout with friends on the land my grandfather left me. My name's Daniel Foster. The lake isn't just a piece of property to me. It's my home, my history, the one place I thought couldn't be stolen. My grandfather taught me how to walk the rocky shoreline without slipping, how to listen to the water as if it had something to say. And he always warned me, people will try to take what's beautiful. At the time, I thought he was just being cautious, maybe even paranoid. But standing on that dock now, older, a little more battle-worn, I know he was just telling me the plain truth, and nothing drove that truth home harder than the woman who called herself president of the Lakeview HOA, Karen Blake. That day started simple enough. My best friend Marcus, a former Marine, was flipping burgers by the grill, calm and efficient like always, while Evan, my grandfather's old surveyor buddy, sat with a cold drink in hand telling war stories about swamps in the 70s. Kids were laughing. The lake was flat as glass. The sky painted in fireworks, reddy blue. That's when Karen showed up, clipboard in hand, tight smile plastered across her face, strutting down the community path like she owned the air we breathed. She didn't say hi, she didn't even nod. She just pointed her pen at my lawn chairs and my dock and barked. "Daniel, we need to talk about your boundary." I kept my voice calm, wished her a happy 4th, but she wasn't here for small talk, according to her. The shoreline had shifted. The water rose. Erosion had moved the ordinary high water mark. And by her logic, my entire picnic, my dock, my lawn, half my damn yard, now belonged to the HOA as common space. She snapped orders like a traffic cop, kids out of the water, coolers off the grass. This area is HOA use from now on. My guests froze. Parents pulled their kids closer. Karen pressed her heel into my lawn like she was branding it with ownership. "Names and addresses," she announced. "Citations will follow." Marcus laid his tongs down. Evan's glass lowered. I told her flat, "Step off my property." "Karen, you're trespassing." But she only smirked, claiming her experts said otherwise, threatening to extend the greenbelt into my yard. I reminded her I had the deed, the survey from 1946, and Evan's certified work from the 90s. I knew water law backwards and forwards, but she didn't care. She thrived on intimidation, on people not knowing better. She finally spun around, tossing over her shoulder. "Consider this a friendly warning." Except, it didn't feel friendly at all. It felt like the rattle of a snake before a strike. And I knew, deep down, that was only her opening move. The next morning, my routine told me something was wrong before my eyes did. I take black coffee to the dock every dawn, a ritual my granddad passed on. That day the air felt sharp, off. Then I saw them, dozens of roofing nails scattered across the path, heads up, waiting for a bare foot or a dog paw. Not an accident. Malice. My heart didn't race. It just settled into a heavy thrum. I spent 20 minutes sweeping them up with a magnet, filming every second for evidence. Over 50 nails, 50 ways to hurt someone. When I reached the dock, Bleach hit my nose. The boards were streaked white, slick, dangerous, and dripping chemicals into the water. A drone buzzed overhead, camera blinking red, ignoring the "no trespassing, no drones" sign on my fence. It tilted, watched, then zipped back toward the HOA trail. Someone was escalating. And then I found the pin. A shiny piece of rebar with a neon orange cap, hammered fresh into the soil 10 feet from the shore. Exactly where Karen had waved her hand the day before. A fake boundary marker. I'd walked those lines with my granddad 100 times. The real monuments were an iron axle buried by the oak and a granite stone across the cove. This imposter was brand new, arrogant, sloppy, proof. I called Dana, the county game warden, who had no patience for people poisoning lakes, when she saw the bleach, the nails, and that fake pin. Her jaw tightened. "This isn't a boundary dispute," she told me. "This is fraud." She advised I get an official survey documented, and Evan was the man for that. He returned, gear in hand, professional seal ready. And the disgust on his face when he saw the fake pin said it all. Amateur scarecrow, no license number, fresh soil, fraud, plain and simple. Still, evidence wasn't enough. We needed them in the act. We knew they'd come back to use that pin, to stretch a line and make it look official. So Marcus and I set up a stakeout. Night vision, infrared trail cams, radios linked back to Evan at the house. We waited in the bushes, hearts beating with the slow patience of hunters. And sure enough, around 2 in the morning, movement. A man in dark clothes stumbling down the trail. Rob Hale, the HOA's handyman, Karen's fixer. He knelt by the pin, pulled out string, spray paint, and a hammer. The plan was clear. Run a yellow string from the fake pin to my dock. Tie it off. Claim half my yard as theirs. My anger simmered, but Marcus squeezed my arm. Wait. Let him commit. Rob tied off the string, dragged it across my grass, reached my dock, hammer raised to drive the first nail. That was enough. We stepped out of the shadows, silent until I spoke. "That's far enough, Rob." He flinched, muttered something about Karen said quick in, quick out. Then panic hit. He swung the hammer wild, desperate. Marcus moved like lightning, deflecting, twisting Rob's wrist until the hammer clattered onto the boards. 3 seconds, and Rob was face down, locked in place, breathing hard, finished. I dialed 911 with steady hands. "This is Daniel Foster. I have a trespasser detained on my property. He's secure. The weapon's down." Deputies arrived minutes later, cuffed Rob, bagged the hammer, the string, the paint. Dana arrived too, shaking her head at the stupidity. Every piece of evidence was logged. Karen's empire had just sprouted its first crack. The next day, we staged something more powerful than any courtroom could deny. A public survey. Evan located the real iron axle and granite post, monuments from 1946, and ran a pink, flagged line across my yard. Legal, documented, irrefutable. Then, for contrast, he had me stretch Rob's yellow string. The fraud sliced right through my porch, my fire pit, my dock. The visual was devastating. Deputy Miller took notes. Dana snapped pictures. "This isn't a dispute," Evan declared. "This is a crime scene." And then, almost like fate, a neighbor slipped me a manila envelope. Emails Karen had sent about her so-called boundary project, orders to buy rebar, instructions to rob, invoices billed to the HOA, the smoking gun. 2 nights later, at the HOA meeting, Karen sat at the head of the table like a queen on her throne, smirking as she announced my concerns. I set up my projector and calmly walked them through it all. The original plat map, photos of nails on my trail, bleach stains on my dock, the fake pin, shiny and illegal. Karen tried to interrupt, but I rolled video, the infrared footage of Rob sneaking in, hammer in hand, swinging at the dock. The room gasped. Neighbors shouted, recognizing the handyman they'd paid. Then I flipped to the emails, line after line. Subject, boundary project. Karen's words, her instructions, her plan laid bare. She turned pale, snapped that it was inadmissible, that I had no right. I looked her dead in the eye. The sheriff already has every file, and so does the DA. Silence dropped like a stone. Her board members stared at her like strangers. Her reign ended in that instant. It didn't take long. Warrants were served, computers seized, nails and survey caps traced to Rob's shed. The DA filed charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, vandalism, trespass, environmental violations at court. My lawyer laid out the deed, Evans' certified survey, and the visual of 2 lines, pink for truth, yellow for fraud. The judge stared over her glasses and asked Karen's attorney, "Do you take this court for a fool?" Summary judgment granted. Karen and Rob liable for damages. HOA on the hook as well. And then the final blow. The judge referred the whole matter to criminal prosecution. Karen's face drained of color. All that arrogance collapsing into a tight mask of fear. When the gavel struck, it wasn't just a ruling, it was the sound of her empire shattering. Walking out of that courthouse, I didn't feel like cheering. I felt the quiet relief of knowing truth had prevailed. Karen thought she could redraw lines with lies and intimidation. But the law doesn't bend for bullies. The bleach stains on my dock will fade. The nails are long gone. The fake pin locked away in evidence. What remains is granite, iron, and a boundary no one can erase. And me, still standing on my land, exactly where my grandfather left me. The lesson is simple. Never let anyone steal your peace, and always defend what's yours with proof, with truth, with everything you've got. That's the heart of this story. And that's what we live for on HOA Drama Unfolded.